Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Ed Sen, Unclickbait. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this live BRAP rant. The Google GDC keynote press conference just wrapped up and wrapped up about 15 minutes ago. I'm still trying to, excuse me, digest all the information that they shared with us and process this. A lot of what they showed us. I mean, wow. I mean, talk about you think of gaming and the future of gaming and the evolution of gaming and where gaming has gone since I started gaming 37 years ago. I'm in awe right now. Look, guys, I love new technology. I love the impact that technology has had in things like movies, gaming, music. I have, and like most of us, have seen what the impact of the internet has had, and not just entertainment, but the world and how we interact as humans and we communicate with each other through social media and web applications and how we do work today versus how we did work 25 years ago. The world has changed dramatically. And I think we're starting to see that with gaming. Gaming, and I've said this for a while, it's kind of been the last frontier um, for how we consume content, how we experience content. Music and movies and television have, and a lot of it has to do with the technology, obviously, being a little more demanding on the video gaming side of things. But if Google, if they live up to what they're putting out here with their gaming platform, which by the way is now, which we know is officially called Stadia, Google Stadia. I think it's a play on Stadium because they had an introduction video of people gaming in arenas and things like that. Hey, what's up, Monkey Punch? And don't call me Danny. Hey guys, by the way, please, if you guys watch the the Google GDC 2019 keynote, please give your thoughts in the live chat. I'll share that as well. Take any questions you guys might have in the live chat. By the way, hit that like button below. If you guys can, tweet out the link. As we're going live right now with this BRAP rant regarding Google Stadia and how it impact gaming. So, as I mentioned, you know, we've kind of seen this thing. We've been on this journey, guys. All of us have. We've seen the internet. We've seen the disruptors in the music industry. We've seen disruption in the television and movie industry and the internet and different companies and what they've done to change how we interact and consume those types of entertainment forms. And Apple. You think about Apple in 2007. You think about Apple with the iPad and the iPhone. It's just a lot has changed, and I always thought that at some point, when especially, and I go back to 2002 with Microsoft, and when Microsoft first came on board and they introduced the original Xbox console and they introduced an Ethernet port. Some of the skepticism that I'm hearing today with regards to game streaming is very similar to what I heard when Microsoft introduced a console that had an internal hard drive, that had an external Ethernet port, that was going to charge you a monthly fee to play online with your friends, where you would communicate with your friends, where you'd have a friends list. The dude 79, what's going on, man? He says that was a seriously mind blowing presentation. Ooh, I agree with you, my man. And dude, you've been gaming probably almost as long as I have seen the impact of technology on gaming. And yeah, this was mind blowing. I had to take some time to kind of quickly think about and process what I saw. And I'll give you my thoughts on Google Stadia here in just a sec. But it's interesting. A lot of the naysayers, or the people that um, it's interesting. I think I've seen this. There's two camps out here. I think there's two camps that feel like, oh, you can only have a box. Gaming can never go outside of popping a disc into a box. And Google's saying, oh no, yeah, actually it can. And I can completely understand why Google would think that they want to come in and disrupt the industry. They have the ability to potentially do that with, look, the line of work they're doing. They talked a lot about AI in the beginning of their conference, and how gaming has really impacted the development of AI, making AI more intelligent. Just recently, AI beat somebody in StarCraft. I think that's one of the examples they gave. But they talked a lot about what Ahmed Sen wants to know if there's going to be hardware in the future. I look, I'm not so sure. I think you'll have hardware, but I think traditional gaming hardware, in the sense as we know it, is probably we're probably transitioning out of that. Not, and I think maybe there's not, and who knows? I don't have, obviously I don't know, but maybe there's no hardware in the future. And I think that's scary for some people. It's interesting. There is this thing in technology as it relates to acceptance lag. That is a thing. I mean, that is a thing. You probably have seen it with our own parents. I know my parents were very reluctant to buy a smartphone. My parents were very reluctant to buy cell phones in the beginning, because why would you need a cell phone? Why would you need to talk to anybody? If somebody wanted to talk to you, they could call you at home, and if you weren't home, they could leave you a voice message. So it's interesting, but those are two things. And there is there's already the controller. That is true. I mean, there is hardware in that regard. But I think in terms of console hardware, we could be at a point right now where we look back in this 15, 20 years from now, we could say, wow, you remember that time when Google came in and disrupted the industry? Geez, I don't want to think about 20 years from now. I'll be 62 years old. And I hope I'm still able to game then. I'm sure I will be. My reflexes may not be as fast, but I'll still be gaming. Dennis Holick Peterson says, don't think there's going to be hardware as we define it today. There might not be. I mean, this could be a turning point. I brought up, with the technology of 5G wireless technology, which is, really rolling out as we speak right now. Still early on though in 5G. But don't call me Danny says the planet ain't going to be here in 15 years. Maybe it won't. It's a scary thought, but maybe it won't. But it's interesting. I'm seeing two groups maybe come out of this, where you have individuals, gamers, that are reluctant to maybe buy into the idea that you don't need a console to stream or to play video games. And I think that's a little antiquated, in my opinion. I think that if the technology is there, and you remove the barrier of a $400 or $500 piece of hardware, why not do that? You get more people involved in gaming, that grows the pot, grows more revenue, grows the industry, and that's a win-win for everyone. And I don't have an issue with that. I would actually prefer that. I could use that $500 on something else. I could use that on software. The ability to play on my TV, um, to play anywhere I go, and have a AAA experience. I'm okay with that. Like that. That doesn't. Yeah, yeah. Daniel B says OBJ is about to order that casket. OBJ probably watched that Google presentation and probably was cussing them out. So, um, but anyhow, very very impressive, very impressive. I think what Google showed today with Google Stadia. Um, what they talked about in the beginning was, high fidelity graphics, delivering content with high fidelity graphics, AAA experiences on any Chrome browser or device. They talked about building a gaming platform for everyone, and that means casuals, um, developers, content creators. Some of the stuff that they talked about, well, that I'll get into later on with the content creators, was very very interesting, and utilizing YouTube. And who would have thought YouTube would have been the catalyst here too for some of the things that they're doing? I mean, they talked about Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and saying, hey, let's say you pull it up on YouTube, you see a video, and there's a play option to click play, and you automatically are playing the game. And I like how Phil Harrison said, he showed an image of today's gaming downloading. In the future, you won't be downloading. You'll have instant access. He said that. He said, you'll click play on YouTube, you'll get instant access. Downloads are a thing of the past. I mean, that is, who wouldn't want that? I mean, how many times, guys, do we get home and unwrap the plastic wrapping off the box, or have to download those day one patches that most of us don't like. This is very very ambitious of Google to do, and I'm all for it. I think this kind of thing pushes the industry forward. It motivates the competitors to be at their best. I tell you what, and I'll say this: the live streaming presentation that they showed of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where they had Assassin's Creed playing on a laptop. They had it playing on a uh, Google Pixel phone. They had it playing on a tablet, and then they had it played. They played it on like an old PC, and then they had it on the television with Chromecast. It seemed very seamless, and I'll tell you what, that streaming presentation seemed much better than what Microsoft showed with the xCloud demonstration on last week's Inside Xbox. Ahmed Sen says, I'm interested in what their first party studios can bring to the plate. Though, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, obviously, none of this matters unless they can execute in terms of bringing quality AAA experiences, good content, good software, gaming experiences that people want to play. First party is going to play a big role in that. They're going to have to create exclusive content that people want. Now, that being said, if YouTube is a catalyst for people to access games, um, what does that mean in terms of pricing? And I'll get to that because I do have a question about pricing. They didn't address pricing. They didn't address bandwidth or anything like that. But so again, Google Stadia, Phil Harrison said, hey, take AC Assassin's Creed Odyssey, for example. You see it on YouTube, you click play, and you have instant access to the game. You don't have to download it. You can use existing controllers. They did introduce a new hardware, though. The Google controller, the Stadia controller. Daniel B says hashtag Google has no games. Well, that's true. They don't at the moment. um, they did introduce the controller, which has some interesting features. It actually has a help button that you can press where I think the example they gave is somebody playing Tomb Raider and with Crystal Dynamics. And actually, Crystal Dynamics is one of the studios or developers that's on board with Google Stadia, along with Ubisoft and id Software. It is actually bringing a new Doom game to Stadia. So don't call me Dave says that is lame. Are you saying that the help button is lame? I actually think that's kind of cool, man. I think, hey, look, there's been times, man, where I've been playing a game on difficulty or maybe a puzzle stumping me, and I just don't feel like, putting additional time into it, and I have to stop and Google it and then watch a YouTube video. Hey, if I can get that all the pressing button, I'm okay with that. More options, more options. Mr. Lineblood says, I'm invested into X. I'm too invested in Xbox or Switch. Too much time and money. I'll stick with Xbox and whatever they decide to do. Yeah, I get that. I get a lot of people are into their ecosystems, want to play with their friends, have hardware. Hey, yeah, I tell you what, if they can deliver, I'll give you my 2 cents. If they can deliver content and I can play games, AAA quality, without any latency, um, 1-to-1, and it's reasonable priced, I'm on board. I'm on board. I'm okay for that. You know, eh, eh, I'll probably still have an Xbox to play games with my friends, but they did say they are going to support cross play, saves and cross progression as well. OBJ to Don says grand opening, grand closing for that trash. OBJ, do me a favor, my friend. Google 5G, and you're going to see why the streaming thing is legit. There's a capture button on the controller. You can share save games to YouTube's. We talked about the assistant button. Now, in terms of this is interesting. In terms of performance, they were saying that they were saying resolution up to 4K, 60 frames a second, HDR, and surround sound for this. Now, that sounds great. I think that sounds impressive. We haven't heard Microsoft make any claims like this, but I want to know too, like, what kind of bandwidth do you have to um, hey, what's up, DJ? Thanks for coming over from Rand's channel. Don't call me Dan says hashtag remember Oya. Yeah, but Oya's no Google. um, it's interesting. Like they said, resolution up to 4K, 60 frames a second, HDR surround sound. I'd like to know what what the bandwidth recommendations are for achieving that level of streaming. They didn't talk about that at all. I feel like and obviously they probably wouldn't. I think that's something that you may see later on. Maybe that's something that comes out of GDC. Um, down the road or this week. I will say this, guys, if you do want to see, if you're interested in the performance, Digital Foundry has an exclusive performance testing video on Google Stadia. So I can actually drop that. Let me see here. I can drop that. In the chat here later on. Um, Mr. Limbaugh says the X Cloud could be just as good. We can't really go off the debacle of inside Xbox. Leaving Xbox will drop bombs at E3. Um, yeah, I mean, X Cloud could be just as good. I mean, we don't know. We haven't really heard anything from X Cloud, but um, the shots have been fired, as they say, across the industry, and so we'll see what Microsoft can do. I think if there's two companies that can pull this off, obviously, I think Microsoft and Google, given the space they're in, obviously, there's Amazon that people are talking about. We know they made some investment in video gaming studios. DJ Singh says Sony will get left behind. I'm not so sure Sony will get left behind. I mean, Sony does have PlayStation Now already. If Sony can somehow get PlayStation Now working on par, similar to or do things similar to what Stadia is doing in terms of streaming, that's big for Sony because they already have a catalog of games and they have established first party studios. See, that's the difference between Sony and Google here. Sony has the software that people want to play. Stadia may have the technology that people may want to try out, but they don't have that. They don't have the catalog of games yet that Sony has. And who's to say that Sony's going to be left behind? I mean, they may be partnering with someone else on this. That we're not aware of. Maybe Amazon. Who knows? We don't know. Don't call me dancing. To me, the industry seems to be happy with believing in fairy tales. I don't remember what do you mean by that? Don't call me Danny. What do you mean by fairy tales? Chief, tell me what's going on, man. Sony has loyal customers. People are not just going to leave. Yeah, Sony has loyal customers, but people do leave. Mr. Limeblood, if you've been gaming and just by your 1977, assuming you're born 1977, so you've probably been gaming for a long time. You've seen people leave. It happens. Yeah, there's a hardcore group of loyalists that don't leave consoles, but people do leave. I've learned over time that people aren't necessarily as loyal. They're as loyal as the next best option in gaming. So for the most part, but yeah. So the performance was interesting. 4K, 60 frames a second, HDR, surround sound. They talked about being able to eventually stream up to 8K. 8K is somewhat the distant future. They talked about GPU. They talked about the data centers and the GPU. AMD helped them design a custom GPU for their data centers for streaming video games. And they mentioned the current GPU at 10.7 teraflops. We talk a lot about teraflops in the gaming community. They said it's more than the combined current gen consoles of the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro. That's all great, Google, but this thing also has to perform at a one-to-one level for people, I think, to really enjoy that. So again, I want to see if this is something that they can pull off. Um, you know, so don't call me Danny says none of this is proven. Yeah, yeah, none of this is proven. Don't call me Danny. Um, but you don't get to version one of something or version two of something. Don't call me Danny until you try version one. And there is we've seen the technology improve in terms of streaming with other um, with other entertainment formats. And I always go back to this. If I told people back in 1996 when we were using 56K modems, um, I it's Um, if I said to you, you'd be able to stream games or if you'd be able to stream television content and a higher resolution 22 years ago, most people would have laughed at me. Most people would have said, no, that's impossible. And how I said with broadband increasing, you'd be able to stream content, in 1080p. People 10 years ago would have, and they were naysayers out there that said, "Oh, that's not possible because the technology isn't there." Well, technology rolls out in steps. I mean, and it rolls out. The progress that we think is going to happen doesn't happen overnight, and uh, and so Danny, this isn't anything I think we're going to see, right away per se. Although I did hear people who did play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, who had adequate bandwidth, say that they were able to play a game that would look very similar one to one to what they played on their PC or their game console, which is still pretty impressive for something that's in beta. Don't call me dancing. Did you see Google Stream? The presentation was horrible. They can't even get that right, but they can have games in 4K 60. Um, you know what? I can understand why you would say that. I didn't have an issue with the Google Stream presentation. Mine ran fine. That's probably an internet issue. Um, but look, I mean, I think you guys got to remember. I mean, I think a lot of us take things for granted in terms of who these companies are. These companies have some of the smartest minds in the industry and technology, and they're working on things. Look, this what they've been working on this platform. They've been working on behind the scenes for years. So this isn't anything that's new to them per se. It's new to us, but it's not new to them. As the technology and the internet improves, you're going to see them be able to stream things in 4K, 60 frames a second. As the data centers get better, as the equipment gets better, you're going to see it. We see it and have seen it in other forms of entertainment. It's not beyond the reality that this can be done in video games. I mean, it can. It can. I mean, we're starting to see that now. Um, there's the advent of 5G. 5G is right around the corner. Verizon just introduced 5G to the home. 5G has lower latency. It's 400 times faster than 4G. Has lower latency than Wi-Fi. It has the ability to stream download speeds well over a gig per second. It's has the ability to have lower latency than fiber to the home and internet speeds faster than fiber to the home. So when you think about those things, you think about um, how that infrastructure is going to mature over time and what it means for the kind of services and the kind of experiences we're going to have later on. Those are going to have profound impacts in terms of how we stream gaming. I mean, we see it today with television and music. They just had the Qualcomm, who's making, if you're familiar with Qualcomm, they make a lot of the cell phone chips and many of the popular cell phones today, the Snapdragon processor chips. They've been running, tests with 5G, and they're saying, at the very least, people are probably going to get 500 megabyte per second download speeds in rural areas with 100 meg upload speeds. I mentioned Verizon 5G earlier. Verizon has rolled out 5G, and it's not even really true 5G. It's kind of like 5G on the backbone of 4G LTE, but they have run 5G, or they're offering 5G to the home right now, and there's people that are getting up to a gigabyte per second download speeds, and at a minimum 150 megabyte per second upload speeds, and this is all with less latency than Wi-Fi. Um, some guy says 25 megabytes per second is a required speed for Google. I did hear that. Ryan Landis says, "Move over console wars. Let the cloud wars begins." That's true, man. That's true. There we go. We're gonna have the cloud wars. Graphic God says Google broke my heart with that gamepad layout. I didn't think it was so bad, Graphic God. Jay, I honestly thought it reminded me a lot of Nintendo's Pro controller in some ways. So, um, what are some interesting things that come out of the Google press conference? We talked about the GPU. Um, being 10.4 teraflops, 10.7 teraflops. I'm sorry. Um, we saw they discussed scaling. They discussed developers having access to their data centers. Um, they have they have quite a bit of the more popular development engines on board: Unreal and Unity. Havoc being on board as middleware, which is pretty popular, which Microsoft owns. Um, id Software said Doom Eternal would run 4K HDR at 60 frames a second. They gave it. Google gave a demonstration of multi GPU versus single GPU on Stadia. On multiplayers, they said that the multiplayer experiences will stay on Google data centers only. No cheating, no hacking. Things will be scaled, synchronized. And Google fully embraces cross-platform play, games, saves, and progression as well. So, what else? Crowd play. This is interesting. The crowd play stuff for YouTube content creators is really fascinating. A lot of it was to now. I don't know. Here's the thing, though. As a content creator, do you really want to open up crowd play? Do you really want some people to be playing with you? I don't know. Maybe not, but crowd play is interesting from a content perspective. I'll tell you what, the one thing that really I found intriguing with this presentation was it wasn't just about developers and gamers. It was like the entire Google ecosystem of people that are involved, like, the end user, the content creators, developers. I mean, everything about them, and how Stadia is going to impact them, and really, tie people together in ways that we haven't seen in being linked together from a community perspective. I mean, the YouTube thing, the crowd play, with the YouTube content creators, getting people to um, play with them is really interesting. Uh, the Stadia state share was interesting, or the Stadia share. I'm sorry, Stadia share was interesting, with people being able to replicate what they just saw a content creator play. I thought that was really interesting. I think I forget the content creator they had on, Pat or something like that. I forget his name. They came on stage and said, "Hey, somebody could be watching me stream play a zombie game where I'm actually running out of health packs, and they can go in and recreate and play that exact same moment that I played." That's really fascinating. I thought that was really interesting. They talked about they've shipped dev kits to over 100 plus developers. They didn't list developer names. I really want to know who's on board. I feel like, outside, I think of the ability to play anywhere, um, the AI, the data centers. Ryan Landis says on the big list of partners I didn't see the NSA. We know they're a partner. Oh boy, that's funny. Um, let's see here. What else do they show? So yeah, I think outside of what they showed in terms of what Stadia is, and what their vision for gaming is, we don't know anything about. Is this, are you going to be, when you're buying games, are you buying games digitally? Now they said no download, so is it, you just click play, and then your Google Wallet's charged, or whatever it is, whatever account information you have on file, credit card account information you have on files charged, or is it a subscription based service where you have X amount of games to play on a tier basis or something like that? We don't know that. I know I mentioned bandwidth earlier. I forget, someone in the live chat said Google saying 25 megabytes per second minimum is the bandwidth requirements. Um, they also introduced newly hired Jade Raymond, which I think is a huge get for them. She is heading up Stadia Games and Entertainment, which is their first party studio, and the she's going to be working with internal studios on game content, and working with external partners for game content as well. So we did learn that Stadia will launch in 2019. And they're gonna sounds like they're gonna have some kind of event in the summertime. Maybe they'll be at E3 where they're going to talk about some of the games coming to the Stadia platform. So again, guys, I am still trying to wrap my head around this. This is this could be one of those things that we look back at as a disruptor to the industry, to the gaming industry. And I know there's people saying that, oh well, it's not um, it's not a hold on, guys, I got to kill this spider. There's a fucking huge spider next to me right here on the ground in my basement. Yeah, that whacking that you hear is me smacking the shit out of this spider. Um, There's a big spider too. Hopefully he's dead. Looks dead. Um, and Nate says, "Can't do it, fam. Streaming will never be the only way I choose to game. It may be a factor, but the only." I guess this is my. Here's the thing that I've always find fascinating. If you can have the same kind of experience streaming as you can on a console, and I'm addressing this question to you, Nate, because I just find this to be fascinating. Because I my mindset is, hey, if I can have the same experience on my TV without a game console, I'm okay with that. If I can still have that experience where I could pause a game, and if I'm traveling somewhere and have that experience on a mobile device, I'm okay with that. I guess So Nate, like, why, if you could have the same experience, why wouldn't you stream? And Nate says, how many times have you had issues with your internet? Honestly, I don't really have issues with my internet anymore. It's been a long time. Um, yeah, I just haven't. I mean, even on my cell phone, 4G LTE, and I have T-Mobile. Unless I'm going to, like, the foothills of West Virginia, I'm fine. Um, OBJ Sound says the frame rate went to shit and buffered in the middle of playing. No way help. What do you, OBJ? What are you referring to? Did you bring up a game earlier? 'Cause I may have missed that comment. By the way, guys, again, there is if you go to Digital Founders YouTube channel, they do have an exclusive performance testing video on Google Stadia. And I haven't checked it out yet, but I'm going to. But one thing I want to say this, guys. This isn't about um this technology is more about the future than it is today. I mean, obviously we have next generation consoles coming out. Um Slow Mo Backup says DF testing said Odyssey was running at 30 frames and not 60. Now, Slow Mo, they did say up to 4K 60 frames a second. They didn't say guaranteed 60. Um, but that's still interesting to know. Now, was it what resolution was it running at, and was it locked at 30 frames a second? But like I said, this thing, guys, it's not something that, like, when Stadia drops, we're gonna have an abundance of the same kind of games that we have on our consoles, and we're gonna work 101. And it may for some people, but it might not for others, because obviously because of broadband, and I think 5G is gonna be um the frame rate heavily dropped. Um okay, OBJ to Don. So all right, slow mo. So I think slow mo backslap. Maybe you can answer OBJ's comment, or address this comment, because slow mo backslap has just watched a digital foundry testing of Assassin's Creed Odyssey from what they showed, and he's saying it's running at 30 frames a second. OBJ to Don saying the frame rate dropped heavily on Assassin's Creed and buffered when he was playing another game live in stage. I didn't see that, but it sounds like Digital Foundry the has information on the Stadia on the testing. So I would say everyone refer to Digital Foundry on this just to kind of see what they said. Mr. Lionblood, it's just streaming, man. They even said their motto is like no box, just no box needed, just a place or something. Or I forget what their mantra is. Hold on a second, I can tell you right now. Actually, uh, yeah. So if you go to www.stadia.com, you'll see the future of gaming is not a box. All right. So Slomo was the Digital Foundry video. Was the analysis based on the live stream demo they did at the keynote conference? Daniel B said, "OJ watched the footage with a magnifying glass." Oh, and Nate says, "I don't want my gaming to depend on paying another bill." But yeah, I mean, I hear you, man. But look, man, you may have to do that. I mean, I mean, I keep saying this, guys. This isn't about us. The way gaming is, in having uh, a service that provides people gaming content on the fly wherever they go, and paying for that maybe on a subscription base. That's not. This isn't for us. Um, this is about this is about our children, about the people who are going to um you know and I hate to say it, we don't matter as much. I mean, because we just like our parents didn't matter when they were coming out with smartphones, when Facebook was being introduced. We're not the target audience anymore per se. It's the future gamers. And if these companies want to be viable, they have to progress, because the expectation of future gamers is, hey, I want my content on the fly. I have everything else on the fly. My friends, my the ability to order food, the ability to stream Netflix everywhere I go. We can all thank Netflix for this, right? The ability to do everything I want on the fly. And if I can't have that, that doesn't make sense to me. That is the mindset of gamers. And I see this with my kids. I have a 10-year-old. His first gaming that he ever did was on a mobile device. Most kids' first gaming experience is on a mobile device now, where when we grew up, it was on a home console, a stationary thing that didn't move. And Nate says, I can play Persona 5 for 1,000 hours and never have to worry about my internet connection, whether it's good or not. Yeah, and I understand that, but you watch TV, your internet's hooked up to the TV. If your internet goes down, you're then you have no TV. Um, I think, and I get what you're saying, but I think it's kind of, at this point with way technology is, it's kind of a wash. I mean, you're watching television. Your television's connected to the internet. If your your television goes down, you're screwed. I mean, and Nate says it may not be for us, but my nieces and nephews look to me when they want to play a fire game. And I get that, Nate. But the thing is, we're going to have these fire games on online now, and that's where this thing is going. And I'm not saying there's, who knows, there could be, we could still see set top boxes in the future. Still, we could still see that. We could still see hardware devices as an option for people that want that. But I think of the future. I think it's just, you know, I just think it's, it's, I just think it's going to go away eventually. That's just my 2 cents. I think that the idea of removing a barrier, and the barrier is the hardware, which is expensive, guys. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you bought an Xbox One X, you just spent $500. You bought a PlayStation 4 Pro, you just spent $399, and that doesn't count the fact that you bought the consoles at launch, which were 400, $500 respectively. Um, it's an expensive hobby to get into, and this is a way for them to grow the pie, and to make money. I mean, that's what these companies do this for, and it's not about us, and it's not personal. As consumers, we can either say, "Hey, we're either down for it or we're not." I mean, and look, I'm not trying to sound like a dick, but I mean that's just the way it is. I've seen this with, and we've seen this with other media. Um, yeah, Nate says, I think owning your media always going to be a factor for people who don't want it. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some. I just don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a minority of people. I think it's going to be the way it was for us growing up in Nate. I just see that changing, and I see it, and I see it in my kids. Um, OBJ says it will away if you allow it to. This is exactly how these companies want you to feel powerless. OBJ, I don't feel powerless to these companies, because I have the option to choose whether or not I want to pay for the service or use it. But look, the fact is, look, the fact of the matter is, OBJ, there was a time where um, the Super Bowl was free, and now you have to pay to watch the Super Bowl. I mean, I mean, it's just how it is, man. I mean, these companies are in the business to make money, and I look at use this television as an example. Um, so and they say I see it when people go to search for something on Netflix and they realize it isn't there. First thing they think is, man, I need to buy the movie. People notice it just takes time. Yeah, I see that too. But I mean, but again, I think there's not a size fits all. But I do think that for the most part, as it relates to gaming, I mean, these moves are really made for the future consumer, whose expectation is to be able to play, um, eh, uh, you know, be able to play content on the fly. And not only that, I think from an engagement perspective, and we look at like the impact that social media has had on gaming in connecting people to streamers and communities. That's part of this too. I mean, that's different from how we grew up. Um, it's just vastly different from how we grew up watching and playing games, and we didn't have content creators. We didn't have YouTube when I was playing video games growing up. We didn't have any of that. I see my kids today, they're watching YouTube videos on Mario Odyssey streams. They're watching Fortnite content creators. They're constantly watching these video streams, and it's not just them. It's like a lot of their friends are doing this, and they talk about it. The difference between gaming when we are growing up is that gaming has become mainstream now. It's not just something that's frowned upon or looked at taboo. It's mainstream. It's like music. It's like movies now. It is mainstream, guys. It is long outgrown us. I say us, the people that are been doing this since the days of the Atari 2600. It's transcended into a whole different level of appeal. It's mainstream now. Gaming has been accessible to these 2 billion. OJ Desan says gaming has been accessible to these 2 billion gamers from the start. I played God of War, Gears, and Zelda all this generation. Wonder how. No, OBJ Don. There's not 2 billion platform console. They aren't 2 billion consoles sold worldwide. That's not. I don't know where you're getting that number from, man. Not. And by the way, what I mean, there's not 2 billion consoles sold between Switch, PS4, and the Xbox One. Yeah, Nate says, look at the recent companies that thought they could do what they wanted to and their game would sell, and they didn't. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, we still have the power as consumers, and the thing is that if people don't want to access the streaming content, they're not going to pay for it. If the streaming, let's say, if look, here's the thing, and this comes out, and it's we were talking about this in the BRAP DM, and Slomo hit the nail on the head when he said, "Look, at the end of the day, this sounds great, but it's going to come down to the video games they have." He is absolutely 110% right. This thing isn't going to be a fly on a donkey's ass if they do not have good content. Google can have impressive technology. The streaming could be 4K, 60 frames a second locked, but none of that means a damn unless they have the games to back it up. And if they don't, people aren't going to go with this. You know, Daniel says his point is mobile gamers have no interest in our games. Here's the thing, guys. Mobile gamers are gamers too. Whether we want to accept that or not, they play video games. Whether it's Candy Crush, they play video games. I mean, that's the end all be all. They're gamers. They play different games than us, but they're gamers. They play video games. They're probably more casual, but they still play video games. And that industry makes a lot of money because people are able to access content on the fly. And the point of what these companies are trying to do is trying to grow the gaming industry. There's potential there for it to transcend to other demographics or people that maybe wouldn't pick up or play a Doom. There's the opportunity for them to have that exposure to these games because you're removing that barrier now of a $500 console, and that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing, to remove a barrier that would allow someone to go play Assassin's Creed Odyssey that they may have not played because they didn't want to go out and spend $500 on a new game console. Death Grip says, "We the consumer hold the key, folks. Got to quit accepting what whack shit 5G and all this streaming crap ain't worth it." Death Grips, I think it's hard to say that it's not worth it for everyone, or say that 5G is not worth it. It may not be something you're interested in, but look, you're going to be on 5G. You have a cell phone, Death Grips. You're going to be on 5G soon. You're going to have to be. And the streaming crap, I'm pretty sure Death Grips, you stream stuff right now. And Nate says, and yet casuals look to the people that stream and make videos to look and see what they should be playing. There's a lot of factors, and that's a great point, Nate. And Death Grip says, "Is the risk worth it?" No. Risk to what? What do you mean by risk? You talking about financial risk, health risk? I don't know what you mean by that. Z Wire says the monetary practices of mobile gaming that mobile gamers allow to stay is a problem for the industry. Um, is it a problem for you? I mean, or is it a problem for all? I mean, how is it a problem? I mean, again, I don't mobile game. I don't buy I don't buy a lot of downloadable content or loot boxes per se. Um, I don't know. If you could expand on that, I'd be interested. Get your thoughts on that a little bit more. But I'll tell you what, this is interesting. I mean, I really want Microsoft really needs to come out and show xCloud and talk about some of the features that xCloud has. I think the one thing that my takeaway from the Google keynote was that we potentially, and again, this is without knowing what Microsoft has up its sleeves. We don't know. We don't know what xCloud is going to have in terms of other features. I mean, especially from the uh, especially from the point of view or the content creator side of things, and that level of interaction between content creators and being able to experience games through content creators. That's not something Microsoft has right now, or maybe they do with Mixer. Maybe that's something they include with Mixer and XCloud. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I really am fascinated to see what Microsoft is going to talk about at E3 with regards to xCloud. They seem pretty bullish on it. They seem to think that that with xCloud they can provide AAA experiences streaming. Ian Pottinger says, for those just starting the game now, all that came before will mean nothing to them. I'm only concerned with what is available now and in the future. They will create their new streaming channels and communities. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, yeah, it's. I think you're right. People that are starting a game now, their experiences and their expectations are much different than ours. And Nate says the amount of companies that have tried to capitalize on the success of mobile gaming, the ground is littered with bones of those who have tried it and tried for it and failed. I mean, look, man, the mobile industry isn't easy, but we could say that about any industry, Nate. That you look at companies that have tried to get into the social media space. You look at companies back when the internet launched. You remember all the search engines that were out. Remember Hotbot. Remember all the before there was Google Chrome. You remember there was Netscape Explorer. I mean, there's so many companies, so many examples of technology companies that have failed. I mean, it's a high risk, high reward business. But I don't think that's not uncommon for a lot of industries. And I don't think that necessarily because there's and I don't know if you're saying this, Nate, but my the only thing I would add to that comment is, I think just because there's um Nate says, I mean, but as a consumer, you could always tell it was going to be fire. I mean, hey man, MySpace was fire for a little bit. Look what happened with them. So yeah, I mean, you may have an idea as a consumer, but nothing's ever guaranteed, man. Deathgrip says, why do so many want this to be a thing? Having most weigh the pros and cons at all. Because this isn't about us. This is about the future gamer. This is about people who want their content on the fly. That's the internet changed the game. Let me tell you something. Once Microsoft got into the console business and they connected the consoles to the internet, everything changed. I shouldn't say it was Microsoft because it was actually Sega that did it first. But when Microsoft created Xbox Live, when they introduced this idea of a community of gamers coming together, being connected to the internet, to changed everything. Um, you know, when uh, when we saw the improvement of mobile technology and 4G and what 4G, I mean, think about this, guys. Before there was 4G LTE, we weren't streaming stuff at 1080p. I can look. I have unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of Comcast, but Comcast is the only provider I have in my area right now. But look, I have an Xfinity app on my phone. So I can literally watch what I'm watching on my television, turn my television off, go to my Xfinity app on my phone, stream that Xfinity show that show that I was watching through Comcast Xfinity, stream that same show on my Xfinity app on my cell phone at a resolution of 1080p. And so you guys, we got to remember something like, gaming is entertainment and it's not going to be, um, it's not going to be, um, sheltered from technology or uh, the increases in bandwidth and network coverage and things of that nature. And Nate says, yeah, I'm educating my nieces and nephews, showing them how gaming is meant to be, and the shock on their face when you realize you don't have to pay more money is hilarious. Uh, he lost his mind about the content. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you bring that up because, yeah, they're not used to experiencing gaming in that regards. But I think they will as they get older. I mean, one of the things I can say with my like my 9-year-old is that he has a Nintendo Switch. We have a Nintendo Switch. He primarily plays it now, but he's experienced play games like Mario Odyssey. But again, that's a situation where even with a Nintendo Switch, he's playing AAA games on the fly. I mean, so he's having those big game experiences. And Nintendo, in a lot of ways, has set that precedent for younger gamers too. If you think about it, with the advent of the DS, now with the Switch, I mean, the Switch with technology finally catching up. These younger generation of gamers are playing AAA games on the Switch, and they can take it anywhere they go. And that is their expectation. I'll say this too. I think also, guys, from a technology standpoint, and I hear this in business a lot. Um, I see this, and I see this internally at some of the companies I worked at, where before you'd have your databases, internal servers in house, and that's moved away from the cloud. I mean, everything. you hear now is that we're moving away from hardware to software, and that doesn't exclude gaming. And I think for some people, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow. I think there's always that individuals who have acceptance lag. But we'll see. I mean, again, this isn't nothing's guaranteed, right? I mean, who knows? This thing Stadia, we could look back at this 10 years from now and be like, oh my god, it was the biggest failure ever. Or we could look back at this 10 years from now and say, wow, um, Google on at GDC 2019 on March 19th unveiled Stadia, and it disrupted the gaming industry. I mean, we could very much look back at that and think that. So, um, I just this is going to be a fascinating time, guys. I think the next 24 months is going to be very interesting. I think, especially with Google and Microsoft, and Microsoft is looking over their shoulders. They've been down this road before, and I think that one of the reasons why Microsoft is investing in xCloud and is streaming is because they know they missed the boat on the mobile OS movement when Apple came in and disrupted the music industry, the smartphone industry, and to move from being solely reliant on a stationary PC to doing things that you would do on a PC now on a mobile device. Microsoft missed that window. I never forget Steve Ballmer laughing at the iPhone because it didn't have a keypad. And I'll never forget that. Doesn't even run Windows. You can't even doesn't even have a keypad that slides out. No one's gonna want this. And you gotta believe Microsoft learned their lessons from that. And look, and they tried. They tried playing catch up. They tried buying Nokia. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I gotta believe that a lot of those lessons have been learned, and Microsoft is moving from services to they're moving to becoming a services based company. So, Nate says people thought PC would be dead in years ago. I can't tell you how many times a day I've tell people they need an actual computer to do something and not their smartphone. Yeah, I mean that's a great point, but but you see to Nate though that we do things a lot. I only use my PC for work, and that's because um, and for doing streaming. Um, but look, I mean, a lot of the things that we're not. You don't have to have a PC only. You can't. You don't have to have a PC and only access the internet anymore, or to send emails, or to do light administrative tasks. You can do those things on your, on your phone or your tablet now. But had you said that to people back in 1993, they would have laughed at you. You know. But no, I mean, yeah, there's obviously things you can't do on your smartphone yet or your tablet that PC can do. Um, Decker says, I'm not just with the subscription, retail, service, and gaming. It's not my bag. Many are for multiple subscriptions, deep pockets, fam. I can understand that. That people may not have the economic means, maybe, to afford subscriptions. Um, I don't know. Yeah. OBJ Don, you still play on a 2600, man. Don't lie. Glorious Horse says Stadia not going to work in most country. What do you mean by most of the U.S. or what do you mean? And how do you know it's not going to work in most of the country? I don't understand. How would you know that already? No, my goodness. I'll tell you, OBJ, you are resisting, my friend. You're resisting. Mr. Kima says most African nations have poor internet service. Okay. I mean, I mean, but that most people in Africa maybe don't game. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What it has to do with a service being successful in other parts of the world. And it says people keep referring to a slice of the pie. I don't think the pie is as big as some people think. I mean, think about how money you have spent on gaming as it is. Everyone is not a mobile whale. Yeah, but I think, Nate, I think this is you're basically removing the barrier of buying a console and just having games accessible to you on the fly. So I mean, I don't think that's look. I don't think that's you're not gonna you look. We're already paying a subscription right now. Microsoft's charging us $60 a year for Xbox Live, which should be free, by the way. I mean, if we're going to be real about that. Same thing with, I would even argue PlayStation Now should be free. Um, with a I mean, they're charging us to access the internet. Sony and Microsoft is. I mean, think about that. I mean, but my point is they're removing the barrier, and that's you're looking at saving $500, $600. Yeah, is it annoying, having another subscription potentially? Yeah. But we don't know. I mean, we also don't know if this is going to be a subscription model. Seem to think that it's going to be if you can just hit the play button on YouTube and just jump into a game without downloading it. Um, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a matter of you hitting play and it charges your credit card account you have on file. I don't know. We don't know how that's going to work. What's going on, FC Violent? John Feliciano says I was expecting a console. John, I was not. It's Google. I was not. And with them, beta testing um the streaming Google Stream last year, I kind of knew that it wasn't Ian says I just paid $2,300 for a new gaming PC. Dang, dude, would you get the RTX 2800 Ti, whatever it is? Ian, you have future proof yourself for quite some time with that gaming PC. It might not be obsolete depending on the graphics card you have. Ian said with a subscription, I always be up to date. I mean, that's a great point, Ian. Like we're not. That's a great point. I mean, with a subscription base where you remove the hardware barrier, and you already have the hardware to play your games in terms of if you own a TV, you own a cell phone or tablet, whatever the case is, you don't have to worry about your hardware being up to date because that's all being taken care of on the back end. That's it. That's a great point. Dominique Simmons says, "What developers do? Hold on. What developers do you think will show up on their presentation in the summer that will support it at launch?" Ah, that's a great question. Well, we know Ubisoft is on board. We know Crystal Dynamics is on board. Id Software is bringing a Doom game. I would imagine probably Activision, maybe. Maybe EA. I don't know. I think you'll see a lot of indie developers there. Um, wow, that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I got to think of Ubi's on there. You probably see maybe an Activision or EA. Um, Maybe Bethesda. If the game streaming is going to be good, why hasn't Google used that tech to improve live streaming? I don't know what you're talking about, Ryan. I don't. Ryan, don't have issues with live streaming with Google, so I don't know. Nate says, I don't know why you pay that much, but goes to show some people's pockets are different. We built two PCs, and that wasn't on credit, so I guess it depends on how much you make. Yeah, I mean, look at people are going to buy, what what people want to buy. Ian Potter says that 2,300 Canadian. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's Mr. Kima says it's going to be hard for Google to attract third-party developers since they are charging 30% the same as Steam. Are they charging? I'm not aware of that. Do you have Mr. Kima? Can you borrow us a link with that? I'd be interested to read about Google's what they're charging. In terms of 30%. But you also got to remember though, Steam's a little bit different than what Google's doing here with Stadia. Steam's limited to PC. So, Mr. Kima, even that Steam's limited to PC. So, the pitch to developers with Stadia is that hey, we're not just um, unlike Steam, we're not just on PC. We're on TV, Chromecast, Chrome products, devices, whatever. Let's see. Moki Ball says some places still don't have good internet connection. Yeah, you're right. Some places don't, but apparently, with 5G, 5G is supposed to really bring a lot of people who are behind in terms of bandwidth in rural areas up to speed. It's supposed to have a really big impact on rural areas, at least from what I've read. Ryan says you never had problems with streaming, no bottling or anything. No. I mean, I don't. No, I haven't had latency issues. I mean, I've streamed like Karate Kid, on YouTube Premium. I mean, I have YouTube Premium. And I've never had any issues. Um, I've never had any issues botting, man. I haven't had issues botting in a long time. PSNX. Well, let's see. PS Xbox are going to offer the same options as Stadia in the future. Sony going to follow the Disney model. Xbox is following Netflix. I mean, Disney and Netflix are similar though. Glorious War. Disney's basically creating its own channel. I mean, it's very similar to Netflix. Um, Spawn says I will never give Google my money. Hey, man, that's you have every right not to give Google your money, man. Every right. There's nothing if you don't want to. Hey, that's right. That's your power as a consumer, man. If you don't want to give them money, don't give them money. Nothing wrong with that at all. Death Grip says Sony following the Nintendo model. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, Sean Layden's already he said it. He kind of laid out that he laid out the vision for a post console future where he said like it's not we're not going to be in these like gaming ghettos anymore where we're you have one door to get in. You're going to have multiple doors. Dominique Simmons says, I was impressed with their Play Now feature on game trailers. I think they'll definitely, if not already, secure plenty of revenue from publishers looking into advertising on the platform. That's actually, Dominic, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't get a chance to expand on that. Yeah, that's a great point, man. I mean, that is I mean, think about that. I mean, how cool is that to be able to look at a game trailer and just hit the play button and play? I mean, shit, I would love to do that. FC Violence says xCloud has to hit the ground running with Google. With what Google is claiming, man, welcome to the stream wars. Yeah, it's no longer the console wars; it's the stream wars. I'm telling you. Um, but again, guys, and I'll say this, and I said this earlier in the podcast. This thing's going to come down to exclusive content. It really is. That's going to be the driving force. Google's really going to have to. Um, Google's really going to have to build out their exclusive content because just like Netflix, like we subscribe to Netflix, but I mean, do any of us really subscribe to Netflix because you can watch Thor Ragnarok on right now on Netflix, or you can stream um, Shameless, or you can stream Breaking Bad, or you can watch um, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. No, a lot of us are, at least for me personally, I'm subscribing to Netflix for the Netflix original content. Ahmet Sin says the Cloud Wars. Ryan Landis says, I'll just say this: get off my lawn, Stadia. Glorious War says Sony exclusives are going to be timed exclusive PlayStation 5 native, then stream to PlayStation Now, just like Disney with movies in the theater, then on Disney apps. Yeah, but here's the thing though, like, and this is what we gotta realize, guys. Like, for instance, like you saying that Sony's going to be it's Sony game on the PS5 is going to be time exclusive, then Steam to stream to PlayStation Now. Sony looks at that as all one and the same anyway. PS5, PS Now, it's all part of the PlayStation ecosystem. And so it's still exclusive to that ecosystem. Ian Potter says Google mentioned that they have their own backbone. They probably have a data center near you. Yeah, and actually, they do have a data center near me. I know that for a fact. And I did think they did. Ian, if I'm not mistaken, I think they did mention um, that they have like 58 zones in over 200 countries, or 19 regions or something. I think they were. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think maybe they were referring to the data centers. Jonathan B says 100% only watch Netflix originals. Ahmed says I don't like Netflix. It's loaded with tons of crap diarrhea. That is too funny. Clarissa, whereas I can't even stream Twitch perfectly. Man. Yeah, I don't know, man. That could be internet, could be hardware issue. I think it could be internet thing. Yeah. Ian Ponder says one man trash is another's treasure. That is true. It's a great point, man. It's a great point. OBJ sounds notice they say up to 4K, which means based on my trash internet, that's 480p for me. OBJ, man, who do you have? You have Comcast? FC Violence says what's interesting is was what Sony is doing. They're building their cloud infrastructure to be where Google's at. Only Microsoft and Amazon have better cloud infrastructure. Going to be interesting. Yeah, that's really going to be interesting. I'm really kind of interested to see what Sony's going to do, because Sony's just not a technology company. I mean, so where is this position them? I mean, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Sony, but I mean, it kind of puts them in an odd position, maybe, or maybe the odd man looking out. I don't know. Nvidia Cloud Gaming has some real competition. They do. Jonathan B says, I really question how dedicated they are to content. Plus, we're in this weird transition period from console. I don't know if anyone's ready for purely streaming based platform right now. I am ready for it as long as the performance is good and there's games that I want to play on it. Death Grip says play to their strengths. Yeah, I mean Tony can play to their strengths, but you know, um, I don't know. Is that going to work for them for forever? Who knows? I'm gonna go to the internet. I'm gonna go to Twitter here. I'm sure Twitter's blowing up right now. Matt Piscatella says, seeing lots of is Stadia the future of gaming commentary, as if video games only have one future, not one that includes an endless number of ways more and more people can play games as part of their everyday lives where, when, and how they want to. It's not a zero sum stop it. It's a great point. And Matt brings up a great point. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, we may see a situation where Stadia is just one of many options on how people, um, you know, uh, play games. I mean, we still may see set-top boxes. We still may see traditional consoles. We could see that. I mean, it's not on the realm of impossibility. Although I do think that um, this is where we'll probably do majority of gaming. This kind of style of service in the future. That's just my opinion. Yeah, Dale says that King Dave is calling fraud alarm on Twitter. He says that they have 5 data centers. Let's see here. See what else is going on the Twitters. Well, I wish I could get King. I don't know if King's available right now. Let me see something real quick. Oh, I think King is. Hold on. Looks like King was broadcasting. I was on with King earlier on Division 2. Interesting. Let's see here. All right, I was trying to see if I can get King in here real quick. I don't know if he's available though. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Death Grips. I'm not saying that you're never gonna see. Like you said, Blu-ray still exists. Vinyls. Vinyls actually made a comeback. Very kind of hip, cool thing now to own vinyls. Those things never die per se. You with technology, you always have some people that are just, um, in some ways they're collectors of those things. Well says Google will control every aspect of online services. Just what Google needs: more user data to sell. Right? Ain't that the truth? Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to get Lord King in here. I don't know if he's available, but let's see. Let's see if he can get in here. He might not be available. Hold on just a sec here. I don't know if he can join, but I'm going to see. All right, let's see here. I'm really interested to see what kind of games they're going to have on the system. Yeah, I heard Amy Henning was there too. I don't know if she is on board with Google, but I had heard she was there. Jade Raymond's actually a pretty big pickup for Google. I look, I had an inclination that they were serious about gaming when they hired Phil Harrison. If you guys remember, Phil Harrison was actually there for the launch of the original PlayStation, and that was then actually hired by Microsoft. I think Phil Harrison was Let's see, go back and tap into my gaming history. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was. Let's see, what was Phil's job at Sony? I think he was the one who um, developed, in charge of building relationships with external developers to build games for the PlayStation, create games for the PlayStation. All right, so I don't know if Lord King's going to join us. He might not. He might be on the road. Jonathan B says he's going to jump ship for Nintendo next. That will be the day. That will be the day. Let's see here. Yeah, I think he's out of pocket. I'll give you Lord Cognito of the Iron Lords podcast. His impressions. Stadia impressions: very clean, aggressive, and concise by New Kid on the Block. Seamless presentation by Google, showing strong showing of ease of use if tech is as described. 2019 launched before PS5 and Scarlet Tech could prove costly or the head start needed. Games? Question mark. Yeah, that's the thing. They need games. I mean, they can launch ahead of the competition, but the competition has games. Let's see this here. I'm going to get this question. All right. Don't think King's going to make it. Oh, God. I'm looking for some other news that may have come out of Google's GDC keynote that we didn't get to, but it doesn't look like I. Yeah, I don't see anything here. All right. Well, guys, it should be interesting. It should be interesting. Um, Victor Austin says, but you perhaps they have YouTube Play. That's true. They do have that, but um, I tell you what, if the one advantage I'll give, if let's say, like, we learn at E3 the Microsoft X Cloud is similar to Stadia. Clear advantage, I think, is going to go to Microsoft because of one, the amount of new developers they've brought on board. I mean, that's going to be huge for them. So think about that. I mean, we know about that and the impact that will have. I think that's the advantage. That's the advantage Microsoft has right now over Google, even Sony in that regard too, and Nintendo. But I think about, as streaming platforms go, Xbox has the upper hand in that regard with the amount of studios they have and established first party content and brands. So um, on that note, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this BRAP rant. Again, I just wanted to talk about Google Stadia. We are going to talk more about Google Stadia tomorrow on the Basement Radio Arcade podcast live, which goes live at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow. We'll have Slomo Backslab, Gaming Forte, Eric Jackson, and B Money on. We'll get their thoughts on Google's Stadia gaming platform. Victor Austin's perhaps they said 200 million gamers come to YouTube daily. That is, YouTube can advertise up to 200 million play in a day. Yeah, they can, but I guess my only thing is, if you are to, as a developer, if you want your game though to be played, there's got to be some kind of partnership. I would imagine, like, if you're going to just hit the play button, then Google has to have some kind of agreement in place, licensing and stuff like that. I guess that was kind of my point, but yeah, that's a great point, Victor. Um, Yeah, so we'll be back on live tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for another Basement Radio Arcade podcast. Jason Schreier just tweeted out, I actually called it Google Stevia, which might not be a great sign. He's got a point there. He's got a point. Too funny. Too funny. All right. All right. On that note, everyone, thank you guys for coming by, hanging out with me in this BRAP rant. Remember, hit that like button, please. If you haven't done so, subscribe and hit that bell notification button so you're notified when new content is uploaded or when we go live. And I want to thank again each and every one of you guys for coming in. Great conversation, always in the live chat. Some really insightful, conversation conversations that were taking place. I really appreciate it, guys. And please remember to come out, hang out with us tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Remember, it's BRAP. We don't do any fanboy stuff. We just talk video games, shoot the shit, and have fun doing so. So thank you again, guys. We'll catch you guys later. And hey, don't forget to check out the Digital Foundry video on Stadia. They have a performance video on Assassin's Creed Odyssey running on Stadia. So definitely check out that Digital Foundry. It's on the Digital Foundry YouTube channel. SC Violence says DMV. That's right, DMV all day. So, yeah, thank you guys again for hanging out. We'll catch you guys tomorrow night. Peace.